Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a match preview for potentially a match that might not even happen. Who the hell knows? I mean, current standing is that current information, whatever the word is the game will go ahead, but who knows? You know, they called off Villa Burnley like 2 hours before, so who the hell even knows what's going to happen? But we are meant to be previewing Wolverhampton Wanderers against Chelsea, taking place tomorrow afternoon at the Molineux Stadium. And we're actually joined by a man that's going. Mr. Charlie. I forgot your surname again. I'm so bad with names. I do apologize. Any which way. Charlie, thank you for coming as always. What situation we're in, I mean, Kovacic is back. You know, he's recovered from the Rona and he's, back in training and all sorts. We still have the other four, in isolation, whatever else, but obviously Chile's injured anyway. So it's still Lukaku, Calamat-Sodoi, and Timo Werner. Kai Havertz has thankfully tested negative and is available for the squad as far as we're aware, unless he's one of the two new cases that came out today. Who the hell knows? Because, again, yes, two more positive test results at Chelsea Football Club in the squad. It's not staff. It's two more players. So we have 6 players currently unavailable due to the Rona. Well, I guess 5 because, again, one of them has an ACL injury anyway. But we also have the problem that we have. Like, if we just had these 6, it's annoying and it's a problem. But the problem is we don't just have that. We have half the squad injured, or even the ones that aren't injured aren't fit. Jorginho is a major doubt. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is apparently a major doubt. Who the hell even knows? We might have to start Kante and Kovacic, who both haven't played football in months. Like, it's in absolute insanity, the position we're in right now. What do you reckon, Charlie? Like, is it even a case where you're thinking about the game itself? Like, how can we win, blah, blah, blah? Or is it just, who the hell knows if we even play?
Oh, I don't even know, to be honest, mate. It's one of them, isn't it? I suppose you just take it hour by hour, I guess, at the moment. At the moment, the game's going ahead. So I guess Tuchel and that, they've prepared for the game, etc. Obviously, depending on who the 2 players are, the plans might have to slightly alter. If it's, for example, if it was Sound again and Ross Barkley, it's not a big loss. Obviously, we hope they're well and whatnot, but that doesn't really affect the team going forward. But if it's 2 players that are nailed on to play, if it was like a Reece James or if it was a Mason Mount or whatever, then you're suddenly thinking, actually, hold on a second, we need to be getting this game called off, because it also comes to the end of the season as well. You can look back on the integrity of the league as well, because if you're Chelsea and you've had to play a game against Wolves with 5, 6, 7 of your first team players missing, and you lose, and like that 3 points or whatever is the difference between not winning the league and winning the league. It's a little bit unfair in terms of how some teams can play a game with a full squad and others have got to go at it with like depleted. So I suppose from that perspective, I'm a little bit unsure about it. But yeah, in terms of the game itself, I guess. I mean, I'd be very surprised if the club haven't been in contact with the Premier League already about potentially trying to get this called off, because, as you say, the two further positive cases today confirmed. There's bound to be more cases confirmed in the tests tomorrow before the match, because those guys that tested positive today would have been in close contact with loads of players at training, etc. So some of the others are bound to have picked it up. So I guess we go with the games on at the moment, but it's something that could just change on a minute-by-minute basis, really. But yeah, I'm expecting the game as it stands to probably go ahead. But yeah, from a selfish perspective, I kind of like to know tonight, just so I don't set off and then get halfway there and it's binned off.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a problem. Like, it's a serious problem. And I mean, like you said it there, it slightly depends on who it is. If it's, you said Saul and Barkley, if it's Bettinelli, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the biggest problem in the world for us as a squad now. Someone asked in the chat, how many positives for a first team does it take to postpone a match? Now, I had someone tell me, but again, I'm not sure if this is the actual rulings. Maybe Python knows better than myself. Apparently, you need to still have 14 players available. But my problem with that 14 players available is, so where does the line between under 23s and under 19 players come? Because Leeds' bench is full of, youth players. They have even two youth players starting a game. So is it 14? Because if that is the case, if it's 14 with under 19s, under 23s, under 18s, whatever you want to do, Man United could have that comfortably. So then I don't understand why some decisions are made, some games are cancelled, some games are not. I mean, I get the whole problem of having games postponed and stuff, that we have to catch them up at some point in the Nations League in June, and will the UEFA, push those back or cancel those for the Premier League? No, it's the UEFA, so obviously not. But, it's especially Charlie and myself as Formula One fans. We know the governing bodies don't really care about the integrity of sport anyway. So, who knows what's happening. It's like dig at any Max Verstappen fans out there. Not that it's Max's fault, but anyway. It's just, I don't know. Like, I don't understand. With the current situation, just call the next 2 match days off. And then most teams have pretty much every player back by the time we're done with those. And then we just play those whenever. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just much more fair if just everybody's called off rather than, we had 1 Premier League game on a Saturday. 1. It has 1 game today, and that hasn't even kicked off yet. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I
was going to quickly say, sorry, is it, I've just seen a comment in the chat very briefly. Is it the 14 players available? Is that just 14 players across like your whole thing, so academy, 23s, etc.?
That's the question I don't know. I would assume it's 14 of the 25 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is it 14 of the 25?
Probably.
But in that case, and if you've got 14 of the 25 available, what are you going to a game with 3 subs?
Yeah, you are.
It just seems ridiculous.
Well, we say that. I'm not sure if you know, and I'm not sure if everybody listening and tuning in knows. But not long ago, how long was it ago? 2-3 weeks ago in Portugal, Benfica played against the side of, sadly, their name has, escaped my mind, but played another side from the Portuguese league, and they only could field 9 players because everybody else was out quarantining. And they still went ahead with the game, which is the most insane thing I've ever heard about. And they were 7-8-0 down at halftime. Then 2 players of the other team that already were down to 9 refused to keep playing. So then they turned up for the second half with 7 players. And then one of their players got sent off. And then they had less than the minimum numbers. And then the referee, stopped the game. So what is going on? Is that what we're headed? I have no idea. And Callum, we don't know who the players are that have tested positive so far. There are rumors, but there's no rumors that we want to this is it, because people might take information the wrong way. But Pice, thank you for coming as always. Do you have any better idea about what exactly the stipulations are for when the game's postponed or when it's not?
Not really, to be honest. I think just what's interesting is I'm pretty sure if you can field an actual team, then I'm pretty sure the game goes ahead. But the main thing for me, taken from this, is Chelsea, Marina Granovskaya and Petr Cech can put a request in to postpone the game, and the Premier League officially have to review it. So the fact that, as far as we know, they've not done that, even if there is 2 more positive cases, is just ridiculous, to be honest. I can't believe that they would want all these key players out. Imagine if, I don't want to do speculation, but imagine if the 2 players are Mendy and, I don't know, Mount or Reece James. You know what I mean? There's no logic to play the game against a tough opponent like Wolves with all these key players out. It does us more harm than good, in my opinion.
To interrupt you, would we be publicly informed about this if they asked for the game to be postponed? Or would we, but how would we know necessarily if they didn't make this public information? Because maybe they have done, is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm sure if we did, then I'm pretty sure the Premier League have to say something. Either that or, like a Matt Law or something, we'll probably find out. I'm sure top club sources would find out. But yeah, I just think it's, as far as we know, I think it's illogical to play tomorrow. I really do. But yeah, we'll see. There's a game going on at the moment. It's a fluid situation. One of the Wolves reporters for The Athletic already said that the game's no doubt going ahead tomorrow, but it's still faster. It's still fluid situation. So we'll have to see. We've still not got official news that 2 more players have tested positive. But obviously, if you guys know who CFC News Page is, he's very, very reliable with everything really going on with Chelsea. And it was his exclusive. So I believe him because I think he's a very good source. So let's wait and see what happens. But it's definitely a moving situation right now.
Fair enough. Alex in the chat here says the only way to have a game postponed or cancelled is if the club closes a training ground in preparation for a match. But have either Villa or Burnley done that? when they called, because that was 2 hours before the game, so no one was at the training ground. So I'm not sure if that is totally all that there is to do with it. He did speak about the current information or rumor, not sure which one it is essentially, is that the Premier League club representatives will meet on Monday to pause the season until the FA Cup third round on the 8th and 9th of January. Again, not 100% sure if that is the case, not 100% sure if this will happen. It might be better for everybody involved, but again, if that's what they're doing, surely you should have just called off this weekend already and then just call off Boxing Day, and then you could have even done the January 1st games because the whole 10-day period, blah, blah, blah. So then most people probably would have been fine. Again, still some teams might have had a few cases, but the likelihood of a lot of teams having a lot of cases probably would have shrunk. But I guess the problem is also that it doesn't really matter what the clubs do, as long as there's, in the country, there's no drastic restrictions. You can still go wherever you want and catch it. That's half the problem. Like, it's not just their training. It's like the kids of the players. The kids go to school. Some wives, have jobs, whatever else. Maybe they live with other parents or whatever else, right? They could all bring everything in and out. You know what I mean? So who knows? I have no idea anymore. We're just going to do this preview as if the game goes ahead with not knowing who the 2 players that are out are. So, that's brilliant. But yeah, Clutch. Thank you for coming, as always, of course, mate. But difficult situation, is it not?
As always, a pleasure, Laurenz. But yeah, I mean, we knew, because when winter comes around, that's usually when this virus starts to get a little bit heavier because people are more in close contact. So we kind of knew that, like, it was going to end up flaring up again. But we didn't know it was going to get this bad this quick. And it's one of those things where it's like, if we don't do something prematurely, like now, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. So I don't understand why we're just beating around the bush, waiting to kind of hope that it just goes away within like a week or two. If we just here or there, take a couple players, send them away. At this point, I think the best thing to do is just shut down the game for 2 to 3 weeks, whatever the period is, get everybody back healthy. And it's come to the point where, I mean, somebody said in the chat, I mean, it's causing problems here in sports in America. I mean, the team that's closest to me in the NFL up north here, they don't even have a quarterback to field. So I don't even know how they're going to play this weekend. NBA players go. I'd be happy to, because they're really terrible. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, I think it's pretty obvious that you take a break and we'll figure it out later where to make the games up. But greed comes into play and whatnot. So for me, I would just go ahead and take it down for a couple weeks. But, who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows? Yeah, no, exactly that. And, I have a bit of a question. I mean, we'll get to that when we talk about the lineup in more detail if we want to. But my question is, and this is a question to Thomas Tuchel and the squad or the staff and whatever, why is every team other than us including youth team players, but we're not? I don't really understand that. I didn't understand it for Zenit. I didn't understand it Zenit, maybe it's because of travel restrictions or travel blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But I say that actually now that I think of it. The youth team played the UEFA Youth Cup game in Russia. So they did travel. So again, I mean, yeah, I understand we maybe want to think about the under-19s games and teams as well, blah, blah, blah. But surely just put them on the bench. So we had to have at least a full bench, which we didn't for, the last couple of games. Just to me, weird. Again, like I said, Leeds have a full bench of youth players and 2 players starting, and confusing. Very, very confusing. But as much as it's depressing, and as much as we don't even know how much relevancy that currently has, I do still want to talk to both Charlie and Pice about the last game, because especially Pice, obviously you was in the chat as well when we was doing the player ratings after, by the time you were probably on your way home. I personally, as much as I was super angry after the game, didn't think it was as bad as the perspective you had. I also felt a lot of players that were people that were in the stadium had the perspective that it was a lot worse than a lot of people I spoke to that watch it on TV. I'm not sure why. I'm just saying that's the the situation I've gathered, that it seems like there is a difference in how people perceive the performance. Because the thing I just disagree with so much, I mean, there were so many people criticizing the midfield, and we had 80% possession. So the midfield can't have done everything wrong. Sorry, if you have 80% possession, we shouldn't be in a position where we're like, if only we had goal-scoring midfielders, man. Like, sorry, we're at 80% possession. We can't be having a go at the midfielders for not scoring when none of our forward players can score. Like, have a go at those first before we have a go at the midfielders for not scoring. At least they controlled the game well. And also, this was Everton's B team, maybe even C team. And our defense still couldn't keep bloody clean sheet. Like, remember Jose days when we won every game 1-0? You know, we did score one goal. If we could just defend properly, we would have still won the game. As much as we would have still been annoyed in hindsight about how bad we were, essentially. It would have at least been annoyed like we were annoyed after the Watford game. Well, at least we got 3 points, though. Or even after Leeds. But at least we got 3 points, though. But because we can't even defend against bloody Everton's C team, we still couldn't keep a clean sheet. And that's the problem for tomorrow because we're playing Wolves. And defensively, they're really good. But they've only scored 2 goals in the last 6 or 7 games or whatever it is. Guaranteed to score against us, no matter who we play. Absolutely guaranteed. There's no chance we keep a clean sheet at this point. I do not believe there's a hope in hell we keep a clean sheet anymore. Honestly, I don't know why. And I don't know why I'm so pessimistic. I do apologize. But Pies, sorry for my monologue. I was getting to ask you, essentially. Maybe also with a couple of days later, do you still think it was as bad as you perceived at the time? Because, yeah, like I said, I mean, the finishing was certainly diabolical. But I think outside of the finishing, it wasn't that bad. Like, again, not good. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm not saying you're playing well, but...
No, to be fair, I still thought it was a really bad game being there. The atmosphere was dead. It felt more like a pre-season game, actually. It felt like... I made this analogy when I was there. It felt like we were playing like they knew the league was about to be cancelled or something like that. You know, like you know the game against Brighton at home where it was like no fans, and that was with all. I think it was Super League stuff. I just felt like no one really wanted to, like. It just felt like it was weird. I don't know how to explain it actually, because I'll just waffle. Like, I don't know how to explain it. The vibe was just
I have
off,
a rough idea of what you mean. It just didn't feel like people cared.
It didn't feel like a Premier League game, bro. Like, it really didn't. Like, with the fans, they were all just chatting to each other. There wasn't really many songs going. Like, the players, like, I don't know whether they thought it would be easy because of the team lineup of Everton, but I just didn't really get the vibe that we wanted to win the game. I mean, the pressing was off, for sure. We just lacked intensity. We passed the ball so slowly.
Sorry,
man.
How can we have not enough pressing when we had 80% of the ball? If we always have the ball, we can't press. Do you know what I mean?
No, but the times that we needed to press off the ball, we was really poor, really, really poor. We didn't get into them.
It was only 20% of the game that could have possibly happened.
that comes to my other point though. We didn't pass the ball quick enough. We had all of the ball, but we didn't make anything. We just passed the ball sideways, 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 sideways. It was so bad. And you know, I get that Pulisic isn't a false nine or whatever, but I would have liked to see that change throughout the game, like, because he couldn't get hold of the ball, like he wasn't making any movement. Like, there was a lot of times, right, where Jorginho had the ball in the middle, and there was like a pass to be played through the midfield. If Pulisic stepped forward and called for the ball, but no one was really doing that. He wasn't doing that. And I get that he's not used to the position. That's something a striker will do. But I just think, like, if we had a bit more movement off the ball, we could have just won that game quite comfortably. Because a few of the times we got through, we had a lot of chances, but I don't know. I saw everyone saying it was a really good game. We created lots of chances. Yeah, we did, but at the ground, it just didn't really feel like that. I don't know why. It was a really boring, dull game. And I think that showed when we scored the goal because everyone went mental. It was such a relief. It was a loud atmosphere when we scored. So that's what I think people were just like, oh my God, finally, it's been such a bad game. We actually scored in the 70th minute and then we conceded. So yeah, it just topped it all off when Saul came on, man. Like, oh my days, so bad. The cross into nobody when it went off the pitch. I mean, the Matthew Harding went absolutely berserk at him because he actually smiled after, and like there was a lot of people like shouting and pointing at him and everything. Like, it just got really toxic. It was definitely more of a bad occasion than it was made out to be on social media. I'll tell you that.
I'm sure in the stadium it was. I'm sure, and I also, like, you were obviously talking to me before the game, like, unsure, do I go, do I not? And I saw a lot of people on Twitter debating, do I go, do I not? And you saw areas in the stadium which were not 100% filled, where clearly people decided quite last minute, let's maybe not go. So obviously the whole situation, especially in England and in London at the moment, especially with how you get to games, like full tubes, carriages and tube stations and everything. You know, I understand that people in that position would be like, oh, but Christmas coming up, I'm going to see my grandparents, blah, blah, blah. So I get it. But for me in the first half, second half, I agree. But first half, I don't even agree with the whole that it was just too much sideways passing. I thought we had more through balls than we had in a while. I thought we had more one-touch football than we had in a while, more successful one-touch football aside from the finish than we had in a while. So for the first half, and that was my feeling at halftime as well, I was not that happy. I was not that unhappy, sorry. I was more like, hopefully the goal will come. Hopefully we don't just play worse in the second half. Unfortunately, we did. It was also part of kind of what Tuchel keeps saying. We score, start of the first half, second half was still decent. We get the goal and then we ball it again. You can debate whether it was a free kick. I still don't think it was. Still don't think it was a foul by Reece James. But the set pieces to be defended better. And yes, it's mostly on Saul, but it's also like on the rest of the team. Who decided to put Saul on the main man at the far post? Like, who came up with that idea? Sorry. Like, it's easy to have a go at Saul now. And obviously he's awful, but someone that's that awful and that much struggling for confidence, don't put him in the most dangerous areas for any set pieces, maybe. Like, sorry, that's not a good idea then, is it? But Charlie, what's your perspective in hindsight of the last game?
Just thought it was poor, mate. I've got to be honest. In terms of, look, all right, we had players missing, but it wasn't an excuse. Everton were absolutely depleted. It was virtually like one of those development sides you'd put out. We have like a combination of a few first teamers coming back from injury and like the under 23s. Honestly, it was a joke side, and we had more than enough to beat them. And I just thought the same old story, really. We can dominate games possession-wise, as you've touched on. We create so many chances, but for our forward players, it's just like I'm not expecting them to score every chance, but we're not even at a 1 in 2 or a 1 in 3. We're about 1 in 5 or 6 are going in. That's not good enough. I don't care who you. That's not good enough. You're not going to win a Premier League title for having conversion rates like that. You simply just not. And look, Mount gets the goal, great, and he's obviously become the youngest player in Chelsea history to get 20 Premier League goals, 4 in his last 4. He's doing really well, but even he missed opportunities that he should be scoring. On Thursday night, the one-on-one when I can't remember who played him in, but he puts it straight at Pickford. Yeah, he's got to be scoring that, and it's all of them. I thought the build-up play was really slow, looked lethargic, and then a worrying trend that's crept in is that we take the lead eventually, and we seem to switch off. We're switching off in key moments defensively at the moment, and it's happening all too often, and that's a big worry because a few weeks ago, that free kick easily gets defended. But for whatever reason now, we seem to be in a mess and we're switching off at key moments. And, I almost felt it was coming. We score and you think, we're probably going to let one in and then 5 minutes later, it's the equaliser. So, look, was it a poor performance? Look, the result's really terrible, but I didn't think the performance was dreadful, but it's the same issues that aren't being fixed. And they just don't look like being fixed at all. That's the biggest worry for me. Is that
and try to fix it was putting bloody Saul up top, and I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you were gonna do that, you might as well just put Alonso up there.
Exactly.
At least, if you're gonna take Alonso off and Saul was gonna go up top, just put Marcus Alonso up top and just put someone else at left back. I didn't understand that. I understand there are very limited options from the bench, or we could have just put Chalobah on in midfield. That would have been fine. But yeah, it was poor. And the issues that have plagued us in December so far, and from previous times as well, they don't look like being rectified. And obviously, if this game goes ahead tomorrow, I can't see how that much differs from Thursday. I really can't. But
especially with Wolves being a lot better defensively than Everton.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's. I mean, look, we could go tomorrow and win, but of course we could. But all the form, etc., is suggesting that we are going to struggle to get a decent result there.
We will. I'm 100% sure that we will struggle. I mean, we might still pull it off, but it will not be like we will not go there and spank them. I'm 1,000,000% sure of that. Clutch, I'll go to you as well. And I guess, I know you mentioned it in the past as well, and you said it to me on WhatsApp as well. But Alex saying here, would you consider bringing in Harvey Vale or Judson Bell into the first team, maybe even Brian Fiabema? Can't talk, Fiabema. I mean, for me, I don't know much about Fiabema, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Harvey Vale and Sunset Bell for sure. Would I start them? No. But would I have them in the squad? 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Again, that's what I said earlier. I don't understand what I haven't been involved in, if I'm being perfectly honest. And, again, Cranky Pan's reminding me here, do Wolves have Adama? If they do, and they probably do, bloody Adama Traore against Alonso. Well, I might as well start digging my own grave now because I can't be handling and seeing that. Do you know what I mean? But Clutch, again, just one last word on the Everton game. In hindsight, do you still have the same feelings you had on the night, or have things slightly changed, I suppose?
I think the first half was a lot better than we kind of remember it to be. Like, we did create a lot of chances, but for me, chance creation versus what we actually put in the back of the net is a very important thing, because we've always been able to create chances. I mean, that's one of those things we talk about, like, that's why Timo Werner's in the side all the time. Is yes, he creates chances, but nothing comes of those chances created. So for me, I think it's hard because we have players who are not good at finishing. I think we have a lot of forward players, but only like a handful of them are decent at finishing. One of them's out of form, has been injured. The other one plays all over the shop. And Kai Havertz is just always moving around and hasn't really found his feet as far as the finishing goes. It's just, I think when it comes to Everton, it was a really hard game for what we had available. I do agree with what Pius said about Pulisic. There was not enough movement, but I disagree that was a Pulisic decision, because I mean, I don't see Thomas Tuchel, unless Thomas Tuchel just had one of those days where he was just not wanting to, because we were talking about it on stream. He looked like Frank Lampard, just stunned on the sidelines, like he was confused what was happening. And I mean, that's just not like him. And I think my biggest problem with Pulisic on the night was he couldn't stay on his feet. There was one time he turned a guy and he like lost his footing when I think it was Ziyech who was running down the side open.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't stay on his feet. I think that would have been an opportunity that we had, but I think overall it's one of these things where the front line is always chopped and changed. Very few of them are playing in the positions that probably make the most sense to them. So it's going to be hard to gain that finishing form if you're always changing. But that's just part of the game currently, because with COVID, with injuries, we play so many games, it's not realistic that everybody's going to be playing in the position they want. And for me, Everton was just one of those, we seen the same thing where the lack of finishing caused us trouble at the end because of one lapse in defensive judgment. So those are the things we got to figure out how to solve, like finishing when we get into those positions, the one-on-ones where we shoot it at the goalkeeper's legs. We don't try to put it around him. I don't understand why that's something we can't do. I mean, maybe Mason Mount, sure, he had a couple good chances, but at the same time, a midfielder, I wouldn't expect him to be the greatest finisher in those kind of positions. I'd expect...
Yeah, okay, but one-on-one with the goalkeeper, I don't care who you are. Even if bloody Mendy's one-on-one with the goalkeeper, I'm expecting him to score that, man.
Sure. But that comes with, like, how many times you've been in that position. It's a different... You can do it in training all you like, but a game is going to be very different, right? It's going to be a little bit... Like, there's more pressure to be put onto there. You might overthink the situation. So, I mean, I think... Like a player like Lukaku, obviously you have to score those one-on-ones. Pulisic, Callum, Kai, Timo, those are the players you look at to be good at finishing, and just it hasn't been there for them.
It's a tough one. The whole Pulisic thing, I told you already on the night, I slightly disagree with you there, because number one, if Tuchel was happy with what Pulisic was doing up top, he wouldn't have brought Saul on to play up top instead. So I disagree that it was purely that Pulisic was listening to instructions. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been moved out of the position. But it's not. I'm not blaming him solely. I do think he could have moved around a bit more. I saw one interesting take, which I think is obviously it's purely speculation, but I feel like maybe there's a little something to said speculation, because my criticism is that he keeps falling over now, and even when he doesn't slip by himself, every time he's even touched, he's on the ground. And then I saw someone on Twitter say in a way, well, last time he didn't, the guy, twisted his ankle in all sorts of million pieces and he was out for 2.5 months. So I'm like, maybe I get it. Maybe he's just been like, well, if I stay up now, who knows what happens to my knee, to my ankle. If I just fall down, I'm down. So I get it. It's not good and it's not helping him play well, but I would understand if that is kind of what's going on. But we're going to move on to the lineups that we'd like to see for tomorrow. Obviously, again, we don't know for sure who the players are. That reportedly, at least, according to CFC News page, who does have a very good track record, the two more cases of the Rona today, right? So we will just talk about as if we don't have these two extra, and maybe we'll touch on what if he has it, who plays instead. Maybe we'll go through it like that. Just before that, let me quickly touch on what Alex said here. Appreciate those kind of inputs, Alex. They're very useful. Current Wolves players unavailable. Raul Jimenez, not sure why he would be unavailable, because I thought he had a suspension last game. Shouldn't he be back now?
Pretty sure he was in training. I'm pretty sure he's available.
Exactly. So Alex, maybe figure that out, what the situation that is. Johnny Otto, Pedro Neto, Ryan, not even going to try to... Nuri, maybe. Hichan Huang, who, by the way, is the worst players ever played for RB Leipzig. But anyway, Fabio Silva and Yerson Mosquera. Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert on Wolves anymore, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But, hey, we need to figure it out. What I know is that they're good defensively, but can't score to save their lives. But the problem is, we struggle to break teams down that are good defensively and somehow gift goals. So, not good. It doesn't sound great if you talk about it like that, does it? But let me get that share screen up so we can talk about the lineup for tomorrow. One thing's for sure, if he is fit, and he isn't one of the two players that have reportedly caught the Rona, Mendy is in goal. That's for damn sure. What about the back three? Because we actually have someone back. Obviously, he came on in the last game already. But Trevor Chalobah is thankfully back. The question is, who does he come in for instead? Because, Thiago Silva is 37. But let's be honest, if Thiago Silva is fit and Rudiger is fit, them two keep playing because they're the only ones capable of anything. I mean, Rudiger had some dodgy games, but was back to being a bit better in the last game, in my opinion. So for me, it's this one. Charlie, would you agree with that back three?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I was going to say, obviously, as you touched on, Silva and Rudiger are going to play if they're fit. They're our two best defenders. So as long as they're fit and healthy to play, it's quite straightforward. And yeah, I was going to say, I think Chalobah to come back in. Aspie's played in the last 3 games. I think Aspie's been great for the club over the years. Of course he has. He's been really poor these last 3 games. So for me, he can't be starting in that back three again. Christensen seems to be bang out of favour. I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, for me, Chalobah getting those minutes in the week was a really important sign that he's probably ready to come back into the lineup for this game. So yeah, that's exactly what I'd go with, mate.
Fair dues. Yeah, no, I would back it as well. Like I said, Clutch, what do you reckon? That your back three as well?
I'd put Kepa on the right. No, I'm kidding. It's Chalobah. Everybody else.
So there's no Christensen for you either.
No, when I was doing my preview earlier, when I was looking into who I wanted to do it, I had Christensen down, and then I remembered Chalobah came back, and I was like, Chalobah he's the one in form right now. Christensen is definitely not in form. Whether that be his contract situation still making him not play as good as he was in the beginning of the season. I think Chalobah has been like one of our best defenders this year. So now that he's fully back, keep him on.
I would agree. Pice, what do you reckon? Do you go with that back three as well and no Christensen?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you guys, to be honest. Wouldn't be too unhappy if Christensen played, but I think, the guy still hasn't signed a contract. So, yeah, I don't think he'll be starting.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I mean, Texas Blues throwing some speculation out there. Well, Chelsea fan page just posted a pic of Kepa, worried one of the new cases is Mendy now. I mean,
I legit thought that. I thought that was so random. Why are they random Kepa posts? Like, weird.
It is a bit strange, but I don't know. If they're going to do that, like, give us a hint about who is it, just say who it is then. They'll be throwing out hints, man. It's not like, we're not trying to win an Oscar here. Just tell us who it is. What is this? Let's move on to the wing backs. I'll stick with you, Pice, because not sure how to word this now. Alonso was, in my opinion, and by his standards, better than usual against Everton. Again, obviously not questioned and, what's the word? Tested defensively, which is why he looked better. But he looked better. So it would make sense to start him. But Wolves also have got Adama Traore, probably the worst player Marcos Alonso could ever be up against. But also Aspie's losing legs. But Aspie, if he just sat deeper, he would probably deal with Adama Traore better. So, I know you said last preview, Pice, you're not a fan of Aspie on the left. Are you still on that position even against Adama Traore, or would you stick with Alonso?
Yeah, see, like, I've got a dilemma here because, I mean, Aspi could play there because I think he's the best defensively out of the options I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
But still, he's got, probably the same amount of legs left in him as Alonso has when he's fully sprinting. So, I mean, they're both slow.
I think it's quicker.
It's not that much, bro. The point is, both of them will still get burned by Adama. And so would Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi. Like, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, they're just a mismatch for strength and positioning in the first place, I think. So,
I think Callum could do okay.
Do you think? Like, I don't know, bro.
He's closest in strength to Adama from anyone we're talking about here, I would say.
Yeah, but I think he will naturally get forward and then counter-attack, so I just don't see that working.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think I'll put Aspi there just because I think he might be the most disciplined. I think he's probably the smartest, if I had to pick one to go up against Adama, in terms of, dropping off a little bit, just things like that. I think IQ-wise, I think might be better for this matchup.
Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. I'll stick with you because let's just finish the wing backs. On the right, Reece James, I presume. I mean, the poor guy playing every game against Zenit, playing midfield, playing wing back last 2 games, playing half midfield or half wing back all at once. But it has to be him again, does it not?
Yeah, absolutely does. If he's not got it, it has to be him. Unless... I mean, I was going to say Hudson-Odoi, but he's not even available, is he? I've just remembered that.
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't. So yeah, nice. Yeah, it has to be Reece James. Unfortunately for him, because I'm pretty sure he's probably feeling the effects of all these games right now. But, oh well. Is what it is.
I mean, I suppose maybe, if things do come to the worst, it has to be Aspi on the right and Alonso on the left, I guess.
Christ, I think I'll just not watch if that happens. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, you did say Aspi, right, in the end. I didn't misunderstand you there.
Yeah, but Aspi and Alonso, like, oh my days, please, no.
Yeah, no, I meant you did say Aspi on the left, just don't put the
Yeah, on the left, I think. But to be honest, Alonso's going to play. I'm just putting Aspi there because, I think he'll be better, not going to lie.
Bit of fun because, that's the only thing we can hope for because who even knows whether we can watch the shows tomorrow. I'll go to you next, Clutch. What you reckon? You said last time Aspi already on the left. Would you say it again, especially now it's Adama Traore against him, or did Alonso do enough of an okay job to now stay in the side for you?
I think when it comes to Adama Traore, like, it's hard because you're stuck between 2 defenders. Aspi doesn't have the legs to do it, so he'll have to be playing a little bit smarter. And what's even worse is his defensive form as of late, where he's getting beat in one-on-ones, has been poor. So his normal strength is just not in form, and I think the pace that Adama Traore has is just gonna ruin Aspi. Especially we've seen that he doesn't have the legs. I mean, in any other game, sure, I'd probably put Aspi there, but you're asking me to pick Alonso between him and Alonso. That's like my worst nightmare. Like, I don't know how to pick between slow and slower. So I mean, ideally, I'd probably go Aspi because if you can get the defensive side out of Aspi, sure, that's going to be great. But I think at some point his legs are going to go and Traore is just going to run amok on him. But James is a given.
Yeah, no, there you go. Fair enough. I mean, like I said, it is. There's an expression in German. I can't think of the expression in English, so ignore me. I'll go to you, Charlie. What do you reckon? Obviously, we all agree on Reece James on the right. I firmly presume if he is available. But what about the left side? Would you stick with Alonso? I mean, someone said it here.
To be fair,
maybe we should put Reece on the left just so he can deal with Adama Traore.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was gonna suggest. I mean, why not? We could switch Reece James to that left-hand side potentially.
Put Aspi on the right then,
and play Aspi on the right-hand side. I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, I don't know how likely that is to happen, but there's potential to do that if we feel that Adama is going to be that much of a threat. I know he doesn't really score that many goals or whatnot, but he will obviously get in behind whoever's playing there, and potentially cause a few issues, but. I mean, for me, if it was down to Aspi or Alonso on one side, I'll probably stick with Alonso just because he knows the position. I know he's not been great, but obviously he knows that position. He's going to be better going forward than Aspie is. Defensively, obviously, he's not quite as good, but I think Aspie in the last 3 games he's played has been below average in all his performances. And I think he could potentially have quite a tough time out there against Traore. I'm not saying Alonso wouldn't, but for me, if it was down to me, I'd probably stick with Alonso. But if Aspie plays there, it's not a complete disaster. But I think he'll probably have to sit a little bit deeper to try and counteract Traore. But sure, maybe stay tuned. Possible Reece James on that left side, but you just don't know.
Can I make a point real quick?
Of course.
So I think the Wolves will end up not or picking whatever side James isn't on. I think they will. Whoever is the opposite wing back to James, I think that's where they'll put Traore. And he was saying that Traore played on the left last game, so he would go up against James in the right back position. But I think they will put him wherever James is not to counteract that. I think whatever they do, they'll switch Traore around. I don't think it'll be. So I think they will try to avoid James versus Traore.
Could be the case. It could be the case. It's a problem in itself, really, because we are still Chelsea and they are still Wolves, and he is still only Adama Traore, who is great until he gets to the box. But once he's in the box, do you know what I mean? I'm not particularly worried. I can't lie. Although I say that, I mean, Chelsea love to give goals to players who never score. And what's that guy called for West Brom, who only ever scored Premier League goals against Chelsea?
Robinson.
There you go. So, do you know what I mean? Chances are Adama never scores. Chances are he scores tomorrow. But the thing of it is, do we focus more on stopping someone like Adama Traore, or do we focus more on making Adama Traore do more defensive work? But can Alonso even achieve that? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, let's just put them, not with a capital L, please. Let's just put them both down, I suppose. I don't know, but I probably slightly favour Aspie, but I'm not 1,000,000% sure. Let's get to the midfield, which is where Thomas Tuchel spoke in depth about the whole situation as well. Both N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic have returned to training. Mateo Kovacic, obviously, just coming out of quarantine, so being stuck in his house. I'm sure depending on how well or bad he felt, he could probably still work out a bit, but definitely depleted in some fitness, let alone from the whole 2 months he was out with a hamstring injury before that. And N'Golo Kante is probably always fit, probably. But the question is just whether his ligaments and muscles and joints, deal with it as well as his heart and his lungs do. So, that's the question and a half. But what Thomas Tuchel said is that Jorginho is a doubt because he's got quite a lot of back pain. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a doubt because he picked up a small injury against Everton, probably from that bad fall he had. When, to be honest, I'm baffled that he continued playing, and arguably better in the second half than he was in the first half. So, unfortunate that he's now a doubt. And Thomas Tuchel said, well, maybe Kante and Kovacic will have to start. Is it fair on them? No, but who else are we going to start? Which is, again, just funny on Barkley and so. But what do you reckon? I go to you first, Clutch. Do you see a midfield of genuinely Kante and Kovacic, or do you think it's at least going to be one of Ruben and Jorginho?
Once again, I'm going to be here for Mason Mount. No, I mean, clearly Mason Mount's probably not going to play in the midfield, so I should probably just stop that. Even though I think it would be a good idea within the situation we have.
Who's going to score if Mount's in midfield, man?
That's the problem.
The goal.
That's the problem, right? So, I mean, you would have to put... That would leave Kai, Pulisic, and Ziyech up top, because I ain't putting Barkley up top. It's hard. I don't... As much as I love Kante, I don't want to put Kante out there like that all the time. But I guess if you got him, you got to play him. So, with not knowing how bad Jorginho is, I mean, if I had to pick from everybody, it would probably be Kante, Jorginho. But maybe Kovacic can do it. I'm just gonna go with Kovacic, Kante. It's unfair to them, but I'm just gonna go with it.
Fair enough. Just seen Simon Phillips' tweet. I'm told tomorrow's game is, as he put it in quotation marks, questionable as it stands. That's all he knows. But the midfield, it's a tough one. I honestly kind of believe that Kova would probably be fine in a way, because it's been long enough since his whole hamstring problem that even if he was out for a while, that he can probably play an hour. The way his injury was, it's different to an ankle injury like Pulisic and Lukaku had. But for Kante, it's just, I mean, Tuchel kept calling it an accident. But when it happened against Juve, we were told, oh, it's just minor and he will only be out for a week. He's been out for like a month since then, basically, or whatever, close to that. So who knows how much of a good idea it is playing Kante. But at the same time, I understand Tuchel. Is there any point in playing anybody else? Like, even if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But we need points. Like, if you want to be in this title fight, we need points. So what's the point in, let's not play them and then lose points again? Because then if them coming back at the later point of being fit is pointless because they were too far to win the league. So it's a questionable this position to be in. It's a very difficult position for Thomas Tuchel to be in. Honestly, I wouldn't want to be him right now. Charlie, what you reckon? Them two, one of Jorginho, one of Ruben. It's obviously the problem is we don't know how fit or how unfit they are. Is the problem. Personally, I think Jorginho, if he's back, is somewhat acceptable against Wolves. I'd probably quite like him to be there. And I'd probably like to see Kova and Georgie and then bring Kante on for Georgie if that's the situation. But what about yourself, Charlie?
Mate, it's such a difficult one because, as you say, we don't know how bad Jorginho's back pain is. Don't know how bad Ruben's knock is. I mean, Tuchel said he couldn't guarantee he would even travel. So it's hard to tell. But I think, if with Ruben, he's obviously played a lot more football than we're expecting. He's now starting to pick up a few knocks here and there. I mean, ideally, if we can not use him from the off, it's probably going to be better because we could aggravate something there and he'd be out for a while longer. As touched on, if Jorginho's back pain is manageable and he can play, I think we have to play him. And I'd be tempted to, out of Kovacic and Kante, I'd probably rather use Kante just purely based on the fact that the way he gets around the pitch, etc., and that he's obviously played football more recently than Kovacic has. I mean, Kovacic has said best part of 8 weeks out, then 10 days with COVID.
Kante only played 30 minutes of football more.
Yeah,
because
true.
He was injured before that game, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, out of the two, I'd probably, if I had to pick between Kante and Kovacic, I'd probably go with the Jorginho and Kante pivot tomorrow. But then we could throw another curveball in. We could try Chalobah in midfield. Like that's also I didn't even see that. That's also a possibility. It's an interesting thought. We saw him play there against Watford when we had to shuffle the pack a little bit. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't totally rule it out. I mean, is it a better option to put Chalobah in there than say rush Kante or Kovacic straight back into the lineup? I mean, could we look at something like a Jorginho and Chalobah pivot? I mean, is that dreadful? I'm not sure. I think it just depends on how bad Jorginho's knock is, because ideally we don't want to put Kovacic and Kante both straight back into the lineup. That's my opinion on it, because you know what's going to happen. We put them both back in from the off. Someone's coming off after half hour. With our luck, you can just always guarantee it.
No. I mean, I will say, I think Jorginho and Chalobah together is too defensive. I think the only way Chalobah plays in midfield is if Jorginho can't play in midfield. I don't see Chalobah and Jorginho together, to be perfectly honest with you. There, I think it's more likely that it's Chalobah and Barkley start in midfield. Not that I want to see that, but I think in terms of Tuchel's decision making, I think that's more likely than Jorginho and Chalobah together. Just because I feel like, well, like how no one's going to get forward here. I mean, maybe I'm doing Chalobah a bit dirty. I haven't seen enough of him at all in midfield to judge that. And the one time he did play it for like 10 minutes before he got injured himself, he was the deepest of kind of a midfield three in that second half against Watford, rather than part of a midfield two. So it's a tough one. But
I'd go Jorginho Kante personally. But I mean, as Tuchel said, it's like this selection is like a lottery. It could literally be any combination of about 4 or 5 players, and we don't know if any of the 2 new cases are midfield players. You obviously have no idea. So yeah, I'd go with that. But I mean, it could be anything.
Fair dues. Pice, I'll go to you. What do you reckon? Chalobah midfield. Do you think Chalobah and Jorginho together is something that we could be doing, or do you agree that that's probably too defensive?
No, I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of different combinations you could do. I think, Kovacic or Kante, I think one of them are going to start. I mean, Tuchel was hinting he was going to start both of them because he said, who else? Like, I mean, that's a bit crazy. I mean, if he starts both of them, one of them's 100% getting injured. If not both, like, genuinely, Kovacic had literally just come back, as well as Kante. Like, I mean, especially Kovacic, like, I don't know if his dribbling's going to be there. Like, I don't know if he's going to be rusty. I'm not
It's
sure.
probably
But
not, but
yeah, like I think we've got to take the risk. I mean, if the game does go ahead, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Christensen back into the back three. And I'll do something slightly different because I believe Jorginho won't play. I think his back's getting really, really bad now. I just have a feeling. He's played so many games in a row, so I'm going to put.
He looked to me. He looked good against. Like he looked okay, like more fit in the last game than he did against before, which is why I find it a bit confusing.
I mean, I don't know. I think some players can hide it quite well. I think Jorginho has been battling through things. So I'm going to put Chalobah and Kovacic in the midfield, and I'll have Chalobah sitting deeper, and then Kovacic can just be his usual self, progressing the ball, going forward a bit more. I think that's something I'd like to see.
I mean, again, obviously we're totally speculating, and it's probably not going to be possible to have like we do it for player ratings, like a democratic decision between ourselves, because I can only put 11 players here. It doesn't let me do more. It's just pure speculation because we don't know, is Kova more fit? Is Kante more fit? Can either of them play? Or is Jorginho more fit than them anyway? Or is Ruben more fit than them? Who the hell knows?
Could also have James going into midfield, Aspi right wing back. You don't know.
Yeah, could do.
Could do. I mean, Tuchel did say he might have to do something crazy that he doesn't usually do. So maybe Christensen goes into midfield. You know, you don't know. Played there for Denmark.
He did.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's played there more than Chalobah has recently. But was Christensen, was Watford one of the games he didn't start because of the whole contract thing?
Yes, I believe so. I think.
Because I was just thinking, why did he pick Chalobah over Christensen for midfield in that game then?
Yeah, I believe that was one of the games. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it might have been.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
The midfield's literally impossible to predict. I'm going to be honest with you. But I'll be very worried if Kovacic and Kante start. Like, that would just be something that I've never really seen before in terms of coming back that quickly and being shoved straight in without any fitness minutes. I mean, that would be ludicrous.
Well, except Kante against Juve, do you know what I mean? So
I've just got a bad feeling about that. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, we can leave it like that for now. It doesn't really matter. Clutch. After what the boys have said, what do you reckon? Any changed your opinion? Maybe Chalobah in there, or?
I think it would be more likely that you would put James in the midfield than you would put Chalobah. But I mean, I think if you put Chalobah in there, I think the 3-5-2 would end up being what it would be to kind of cover for that. So he would be like the holding midfield, and then you'd have like a Kovacic or a Mason and a Ziyech in the 8 role. So I think if Chalobah goes in there, I think it'll be more of a holding thing for him. I don't think he'll play in a pivot. But maybe. I could also see Reece James coming in and Pulisic going to right wing back, but who knows?
Maybe that's the whole plan anyway. Play none of Jorginho, Ruben, Kova, and Kante, and do that, and then play Havertz and Pulisic up front. Any reactions, Charlie?
It's hard. I don't know. It's so up for debate. I mean, it could literally be anything. I mean, that wouldn't be a disaster, but
no.
I mean, there's so many different options. I mean, I don't know how experimental we're going to need to go.
I can't lie. That midfield or that kind of system doesn't exactly fill me with more hope that we're going to score against Wolves. I can't lie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really that confident we're going to score that many goals, whatever system we play. Considering what we've got available. I mean, we could have, 5 up top or whatever it is. Like, it's not going to suddenly make us finish better. So, I mean, yeah, it's so difficult. It could be absolutely anything.
It could be. It really could be. Price that kind of a midfield 3, Chalobah at the base, and then none of the 4 we spoke about in terms of being doubts or coming back from injuries and whatever else. Play, is that something you could see possibly happen?
Maybe. It's so hard to predict, bro. The midfield, like, I think on paper that looks all right, but then I don't know. Would we be too isolated up top? I'm not sure.
Especially again, I mean, Clutch said it for him for striker, but especially taking Mount out of the front three.
Yeah,
he's the only guy that scores is a bit crazy these days.
Yeah, no, I 100%. Looking at that, actually, I think it will be just a normal how we usually do it. I can't lie.
I'm just gonna put that guy as a question mark because we have 4 different opinions essentially about who should be playing here. So let's just put a question mark because who the hell knows? But one thing we do know is Mount's either going to play here or over there. He's definitely playing, that's for sure. And one thing, unless he's one of the guys that picked, that now tested positive all of a sudden, but he had multiple negative tests, and they even left him out for precaution. Which, in hindsight, I'm like, I mean, I get being precautious, but we're trying to win a Premier League here. Just stick kind to squad, man. But he is back, supposedly, again, if he isn't one of the 2 new ones today. Or one of the potential new ones tomorrow morning. Who knows? But Kai's back. So that we don't need to look at another Pulisic false 9 situation. And it should already make our attacking play a bit better. Although, is Kai's finishing better than Pulisic's or Ziyech? So, no, it isn't. That really isn't. His heading is, but the other things, no. So I think we probably all agree that if Kai is fit and if Mount is fit, they're going to be 2 of the front 3. I presume we all agree on that. Clutch?
Yeah, I mean, if we don't change the shape, I think Mount's definitely going to start in the front, and Kai is for sure going to be the leader up top. So it's just, do you play Pulisic or Ziyech with them? And I don't know. I mean, off form, probably Ziyech, but who knows? I mean, who knows how the game's going to go? I'd probably go with Ziyech over Pulisic in this moment, but if you're ever going to give Pulisic a time on the left wing position, probably should be that, but who knows? I don't know.
It's such a difficult one, and I'll go to you next, Pice. But for me, the problem is, and we just were kind of touching on this again, Clutch, after the last game where you were talking about the whole dribbling thing, and I'm like, the problem is when you play teams that deep, as Everton were against us and as Wolves probably will be against us, the problem with that is if you're not Hazard, Neymar, Messi levels of dribbling good, even if you're Pulisic, who is very good at dribbling, on form, currently struggling more so with that. Not sure if we blame Puma for it or anybody else, but, something's a problem. If there's so many men to beat, no matter how good you are, unless you're Hazard or Messi or Neymar, you're not going to get through them anyway. So at that point, is there even any point playing the dribblers? So that's why I would probably agree with what you said and go for Ziyech over Pulisic for that reason, because I feel like Pulisic's biggest strength is, number one, currently struggling with his own form. Or that's not his biggest strength, but his biggest strength is dribbling. He's struggling with producing, said strength because struggling a bit with form and lack of game time and changing positions, blah, blah, blah. But even if he was on form, even then I'd be like, you're good, but are you good enough to beat 4 players, which you're probably going to have to? I don't know. So that I'd probably pick Ziyech, who I mean, Pice might have a slightly different opinion because he was obviously at the game. But again, I thought he was pretty decent. Second half, tailed off more and more and had a couple of very dodgy passes. But in general, I thought was decent, at least brought some energy, which I think is very important, especially who knows how fit the rest of the squad are. He looks fit these days. So I would probably go with that front 3. But, Pice, I presume you agree on Kai and Mount, but would you agree on Ziyech as well, or would you go with somebody different?
I mean, I want to give Pulisic a start on the left because, I mean, first off, I know Clutch likes that thought. Yeah, I mean, why not, right? Like, if he can gain some more confidence there, then sure. I mean, while Hudson-Odoi's out as well with COVID and different things like that, Werner's out as well. I mean, why not? I mean, to be honest, personally, I've never liked Ziyech on the left-hand side. I just think it's awkward, especially Ziyech and Mount. Like, I don't know, they linked up well for West Ham goal, but I don't know. I think I'd prefer more of a dribbler in there, so I think I'll put Pulisic there, to be fair. And I mean, Pulisic can always come off if he's playing bad, but I think I'll start with Pulisic down that side.
Interesting. That's interesting. Like I said, I just think Ziyech is in much better form right now. But let's put it like that for now, and let's see what Charlie says. What do you reckon? No one talking about Saul up top, yeah? Anyone? No? Okay, fair enough. Charlie, how about a Mount? I presume you agree. What about the left side? I mean, obviously, if you want to put Mount on the left and Ziyech on the right, sure. But whenever they've played together recently, it's been Ziyech on the left, Mount on the right. So the likelihood of that all of a sudden being switched around is probably rather slim.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with the first 2. Kai, if he's ready to go, he has to play up there. Offers us a bit of more of a focal point, someone that holds the ball up nice bit of link-up play off as well. He's good in the air as well, so gives us another dimension. I mean, against Everton, we were putting balls in the box, and we've got Pulisic, one of the shortest players on the pitch. Like it just didn't make any sense. So yeah, that gives us another outlet there as well to get balls in, more danger from set pieces as well. Kai playing. So for me, he definitely goes through the middle. Mount, don't really need to explain why he starts. Obvious what he offers to this side at the moment. He's the only one that seems to be scoring any goals. Left-hand side's interesting because, like, ideally you think, it'd be great to put Pulisic there, but I'm a fan of Pulisic. You know, he's obviously got immense talent, but for me, he's been poor when he's played this season, and definitely in recent weeks. I know he's not a false nine, but both times he's operated there, he's been very poor, and he's not done enough for me in games where he's been given an opportunity. And I think for someone that's cost us £60+ million, apart from his form after Project Restart, we can't keep referring back to that. He's not delivered on what we expect for someone that costs £60+ million. We've not had a decent return on our investment, and that's just the way I see it. Is this a good game for him? Yes, it potentially could be, but if you're picking players on form and who deserves to start, Pulisic over Ziyech doesn't deserve to start on current form. So, I mean, I always tend to pick players on form, and I would be more inclined to go with Ziyech, but I could also equally see Pulisic starting. But if I'm picking it, I'm going Ziyech for those reasons, just because he's in better form for me.
Yeah, I agree. And also, obviously, we didn't have any attackers on the bench last time because Ziyech, Pulisic and Mount all had to start, but now we have Kai back, who, I mean, to be fair, Ziyech has had his impact moments from the bench as well. But Pulisic is certainly the best one from the bench from anybody we have, essentially. So having him up to bring on from the bench in the second half is, if anything, a good thing anyway. Sure, I'm sure he himself will be upset he doesn't start. I'm sure Clutch will be upset if he doesn't start. And I'm sure there's some other people that would be upset if he doesn't start. But I just think he's the most likely to bring something new and bring some effectiveness and bring some, some change from the bench. So that's another, weirdly for him, thing that goes against him for starting because he's good off the bench. So again, I mean, I think we're just going to leave the midfield too, or that midfield and the question mark, because it could be anybody of Jorginho, Loftus-Cheek, Kante, Kovacic, bloody Christensen and Aspie plays here. Who the hell even knows, right? It could be Ross Barkley. Imagine he starts, so it will be a madness. So we're just going to put a question mark, but hey, at the moment, we don't even bloody know whether we're going to play tomorrow. So that's half the bloody problem. But ladies and gentlemen, by the way, one thing I haven't asked you to do yet, please do subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. Hit that big red subscribe button. Doesn't cost you any money. Doesn't cost you any time either. And I will tell you that again in another bit. But, get subscribed. Really helps me out. And that means a lot. But also smash the like button for me. We only have 40 likes right now, which is quite ridiculous for myself, really. So go down below. Smash the like button. Again, doesn't cost you any money. Barely cost you any time. And it really helps me out with the algorithm. So, we sit here grinding, whether there's a game tomorrow or not. I'm not sure if there's no game tomorrow. I'll be streaming tomorrow. Probably not. But, we'll be back soon to discuss whatever the situation is then. Probably Monday because, Monday is when this apparent meeting between Premier League clubs is. So probably public information. But again, smash the like button. That'd be massively appreciated. And boys, I think we're going to slowly round it out here with one of the most difficult pieces of score prediction we're probably ever going to make, any of us, because we don't know who's going to play. We don't even know if we're going to play. So who the bloody hell even knows? Charlie, why don't I go with you first? What you reckon? Confident that we're going to bounce back? Worried that it's going to be another bloody 1-1 or even worse?
I mean, it's so hard to tell. I mean, I've kept saying to myself, I can't get any worse, in the next game. And then it does. So I mean, it's December. We're playing badly. All the things are going against us. We've got players out with COVID, injuries, etc., not playing well. I mean, we could do the most Chelsea thing and bounce back, and we could win this game 2 or 3-0, and we wouldn't be that surprised. But I mean, ultimately, I think I'm going to have to be realistic, and I think we're going to struggle to win this game. I really do. I'd be more inclined to go for the draw. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw. I'm going to go with a 1-1. I just think we're probably going to end up dropping more points, and I honestly think the best bet for us is if this game gets called off. I mean, it's disappointing as that is, because obviously I'd love to go, but I think realistically, there's a high chance this game goes ahead, we fall more points off the pace and potentially put ourselves out of the title race if we're not there already. So I'm going to go with a 1-1. Unfortunately, I'm normally quite positive I normally predict Chelsea to win most weeks, but on current form, the fact we couldn't even beat Everton's C team in the week, doesn't fill me with confidence going with virtually the same side, possibly even more depleted, to go to Wolves away, which is a lot tougher. So yeah, a 1-1 draw for me.
Fair. One thing I will touch on after the last games, there was a lot of people like saying, "Oh, we're now out of the title race." I'm like, we're 4 points up. We're not out of any title race. But if we drop points again, maybe I know it could theoretically then be 6 or 7, depending on how many points we drop. Even that still, within distance, in all honesty. But with City's form, hey, who knows? They could hit a bad spell like we did right now, but it's City. How often do they hit those other than very early in the season? And they already had that, kind of. So likelihood of that, small. 4 points, though, especially when we have a game against them still to play, still possible. So, I mean, we say must-win game for pretty much every game, but tomorrow really, really is a must-win game. Like, if we want to stay in this title race, there's no two questions. We need to win. And where does that start? Can we keep a fucking clean sheet? Please. And Anthony Barry, I want the guy to not sleep. Study those bloody set pieces all night long, all day long. I don't care. And don't put Soul at the far post, number one. And number two, just make sure we don't concede. And ideally, we score from one as well, because that would be quite helpful. Can we also, when Alonso does play, can he stop taking corners? Because he's tall and could actually win a header in the box. So can we let someone shorter take those corners so he can actually try to score in the box? Because one of the few things he's actually good at is scoring goals. But now, because whenever he plays, he takes most corners, how can he score goals? So if we're taking that from him as well, again, taking something from Alonso is, a bit steep. But get what I'm trying to say. So it's like, just keep a clean sheet. I do think we're going to score 1. So if we keep a clean sheet, I do think we'll win. But I'm worried that we don't keep a clean sheet, and then I fear that 1-1 that Charlie has predicted. I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to say 1-0. I feel like we're not going to score more than 1, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's just about, can we keep a clean sheet or not? Pice, what do you reckon? Positivity, pessimism? Where'd you sit?
2-1 Wolves.
Bloody hell.
Unfortunately, I feel like
if we concede 2 goals against Wolves,
I feel like they'll. Honestly, I'm being really pessimistic. I want us to win, but if the game goes ahead, horrible feeling, to be honest. I mean, I just think Adama is going to be the main difference. I think probably going to absolutely tear us to shreds. Unfortunately, and I do agree with what one of you guys said earlier, with the fact that even if he starts on the right against Alonso, they'll probably change him. So, he can run up against anyone else that he wants to, the other side, and keep him away from Reece James. So, yeah, I think 2-1. They're at home as well. I don't usually ever predict us to lose, but just got a really bad feeling about this game. Don't see any way how we're going to win, because we've just been so leaky in defence lately. We don't look solid. We don't have that, with Chelsea, especially like last season, start of this season. If we scored first, and I was like, okay, they're not scoring against us now most of the times. I felt so confident, but
and now you're like, within the next 5 minutes, we're not even leading anymore. It's
it doesn't really make any sense. I don't know what's happened, but I just think, I don't know. That's just my prediction. Hopefully we win if the game goes, but it's just bad feelings, to be honest.
Fair play, mate. Fair play. I mean, hey, if we concede 2 against Wolves, I told you earlier, they scored 2 in the last 7 games or 6 games, whatever it is. If we concede 2 against them lot, like, they're good defensively and they're on a good, decent run of form, but them lot cannot score to save their lives. If we let them score 2, we need to be having serious questions about what we do defensively as well, because it cannot be, I don't care how good Ben Chilwell is, and I don't care how bad Marcos Alonso is, it cannot be that just from one injury, we go from the best defensive side in literally world football to being worse than bloody Everton. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's unacceptable behaviour. Absolutely unacceptable behaviour. So I hope Pice is wrong. And if he's right, I'm going to be fuming. Clutch, what's your name? Where do you sit between all of our predictions? We have a draw, a win, and a loss. So nothing new to pick for you, unfortunately. But what are you going to go with?
Realistically, it'll probably be a draw, but I'm going to be a little bit more positive. I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea. I'm going to hope that we just take this opportunity to just get something in before, whether they shut down the league for 3 games or whatever. I think they need to take this opportunity tomorrow, just in case, because I mean, the run of form we're on, we can't drop more points. It's something that cannot happen. So I'm gonna be positive and say 2-1.
Exactly. It's a weird one because yes, we're struggling, and who knows which players we're fit, but one piece of stat. I know a lot of people don't like XG, but we had an XG of, what was it, 3.87 or something against Everton the other day. When City beat Leeds 7-0, they had an XG of 2 points something. So they scored 7, even though they didn't even have an XG of 3, which is like, that's why I'm saying we weren't that bad against Everton. We just cannot score and apparently also cannot defend. Like, you can win 7-0 by having an XG of under 3. we can't. And people say, Arsenal 3. Well, Leeds don't even have a team at the moment. So, that's true. They just played bloody Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City. Them man are dead. I mean, they're dead as it is in terms of, players. But with how they play, like, what would you expect from them? So, nothing shocking about that. But what I like about Arsenal being good right now is it makes it even more fun when they're bad again. And it will come. So, swings and roundabouts. And, it will come. It will come. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to round it out here. To be fair, Pickford beat us and we played decent. Not sure why he beat us, but, we let him beat us. That's for sure. But yeah, I think we're going to round it out here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I do apologize that we don't currently have information whether the game will or will not go ahead. I do hope for you, Charlie, that it's not going to be a situation like the Villa-Burnley one where you're like, you're already sat in bloody Wolverhampton. It's not like the nicest place of all to go. Although I've never been, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is a lovely place to be. I have no idea. But I just hope you're not there yet by the time they decide to call it off, if they do call it off. But yeah, obviously check out Charlie's channel. The link to it is down in the description. Blues Brothers. Help him get a few more subs. The same goes obviously for Clutch over on Twitter. And of course, Pice as well. Check out his website as well. Because, if you need any Chelsea information, you will get it there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. I told you a minute ago already. But please do subscribe if you haven't already. It's always massively appreciated. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. So hit that big red subscribe button. Smash the like button for me. If you haven't just yet, you definitely haven't had enough likes yet. So before you leave, hit that like button. Massively appreciated. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Excuse me, up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. Let's hope we can get back to winning ways if we even have a game to play. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I'll see you next time.